Welcome to Shardcast, the Brandon Sanderson podcast. We're a bunch of mega fans giving you the news, discussion, and of course, a whole lot of opinions about Brandon's work and the Cosmere. I'm Eric, and joining me is Ian.
Hey, I'm WeiryWriter.
Also joining me, who is very Canadian today, is Matt.
Happy Canada Day. I'm Comatose on the forums, and I solemnly swear I will not hate on anyone's fan favorites this episode.
This won't be posted anywhere near Canada Day, but now you know when this episode's recorded.
Yeah.
Why you something maple syrup mousse? Great, cool. Also joining
Maple moose jerky. He was telling us about that.
Yeah. Apparently, there is such a thing as maple moose jerky, which
But
sounds
it's not
like
a
literally.
big thing. It's just like you can
That sounds like literally the most Canadian thing there ever was.
It only needs to be polite.
Yeah, it has to be polite. There you go. Yeah. Also joining me is Evgeni.
Hello, I am Navani Colin, Artefabrian patron.
No, you're not. You're Argent.
Yes, I am.
No. Navani doesn't have that voice. Just saying.
It's the result of many years of working with smoking Fabrials.
Yeah. Inhaled a lot of
Great.
It does wonders to the lungs.
Great.
Does that mean you're in a relationship with Alex/Feather because she's dad to Renarin?
I don't know if Alex would be Dalinar. I don't know. That's kind of a stretch.
Well, see, the thing is, I don't accept that thing, so no.
Okay, so it's unrequited. Got it. All right, and I am Chaos. Great intro, guys. Speaking of Fabrials, we're going to be talking about Fabrials today. We're going to talk about what they are. We're going to talk about ancient Fabrials. We're going to talk about all that sort of stuff. So why don't
we split it into two?
Yeah. So, what are Fabrials?
Well, in Oathbringer, there's a bridgeman called Rial, who is notoriously fab.
No,
Mm-hmm.
no.
He's on the Roshar equivalent of Queer Eye for you Netflix watchers. One of the Fab Five.
Ian, what's a Fabrial? Save me.
Okay, so Fabrials are magical mechanical devices that, if you're on Roshar, used and captured in gems, fueled with stormlight to produce an effect, like generating heat, or lift one and another goes up, or lift one and the other one goes down.
Yep.
Fun stuff like that.
That last bit clears it up 100%.
They do stuff.
Yes, that's what I was looking for.
Great.
Brandon has said, I think, that Fabrial as a term might be used to describe other technologies that use magic on other planets.
Yeah.
In the future.
Yeah, going forward, it's going to spread through the Cosmere. That way he doesn't have to come up with multiple names.
Similarly to how Shadesmar.
Yeah, just like Shadesmar.
This is not like Shadesmar. Because Shadesmar is stupid. Because they're just duplicating a term that already exists. Like Fabrial is a new term. I like Fabrial spreading. This is good.
It's just like appropriation of an old term to expand its meaning to mean different things.
Let's talk about how Fabrials work.
So we're going to be just talking about Roshar and Fabrials, just so people don't.
Oh yeah, right.
So if you're listening to this episode in 2040 or whenever we get the third era or the fourth era Mistborn series, it's just Roshar and Fabrials.
Oh god, that's depressing.
What, that we're going to be like 40 years old when we get those late books?
Oh, that hit me hard.
Let's talk about the components of Fabrials and let Argent just be in a corner for a little bit.
Okay. You need a spread.
Yes. How do you get a spread in a gemstone?
Well, Oathbringer spoilers.
Yes.
You entice the spren with something that it likes. So for flame spren, it would be fire and or heat. For joy spren, it would presumably be joy and things like that. For a specific unmade, it would be Dalinar.
Yeah.
And what you are effectively doing here is spren fishing.
Mhm.
You are, which is a term that we got from the
Sea of Lost Lights map.
map from Oathbringer, where Naz mentions that in specific areas, spren fishing is illegal, and spren fishing is exactly the process of luring spren for your own presumably nefarious purposes, such as imprisoning them in gems.
See, I would not view that as nefarious.
And also, if you're in Shadesmar, it's a little different than if you're
Yeah.
in the physical realm as well.
I think that is an interesting concept, though, that you wonder what Fabrials are being built or used in Shadesmar. Like, are, Spren also making Fabrials using
Whoa.
lesser Spren? Or,
How would that
you
even
know,
work?
I
Whoa.
don't think so. I think Fabrials are very much a
physical
realm thing.
Yeah, because
For the
oth-
same reason that you can't summon a shard blade in
Yeah.
the cognitive realm.
But if they're outlying Spren fishing in the Shadesmar,
Well, so
people must be doing it,
my
right?
my impression of sprint fishing was that, so first of all, it is not everywhere, and second, it is more of an ethics thing than it is well, we are gonna ban that so you don't imprison sprint. It's something that's not cool.
Yeah, I think Isaac, because the Sea of Lost Lights map is Isaac put a lot of work into that, and his thoughts on that was Naz was trying to attract some spread to use as a beast of burden in the cognitive realm, but that was still not okay because he wasn't being the emotions that were attracting those spread weren't true.
Yeah, they're not using him for Fabrials in particular, but it's the same process. And so that kind of leads to the second thing that you need. You need a gem, and you need the right gem.
Yeah, the right type of gem and the right cut of gem.
Yeah.
Because the cut is very important.
And you can have different Spren and gem combinations depending on what you're wanting to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we really don't know how, if there's a different cut, what spren go in the different gem. I don't think we really have a lot of those details right now, right?
The only one that we know is the Navani notebook page from Way of Kings, which shows a flame spren being captured in an emerald.
And we know that the heat reels we see use rubies, right?
Yeah, but and presumably those would use flame spren, but we don't know for sure.
We don't know I guess we don't know.
We do. We do actually. There's a mention somewhere, I believe, in Taravangian's speech not speech, but conversation with Dalinar in Vadenar, where he says, that we can capture a flame spren in a gem, and then if we press the metal to the gem, it causes the spren to emit heat or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and then so there's also this metal component too.
Oh, actually, you're getting it mixed up. That's the Jasna Shallan conversation in chapter 33, and it's Jasna who says it. But you're exactly right. She says, flame spren give off heat, and by pressing metal against a ruby with a flame spren trapped inside, you can increase or decrease that heat. So
that's so interesting that all you need to do is just press a metal to the gem.
Well, and what purpose does the metal? Because all the Fabrials we see, I think, have not just gemstones. They have these metal components, and what is the metal doing?
So metal is important in the Cosmere, It's
Yeah.
like there's a reason why solid physical investiture is metal. That this is probably like fundamental Cosmere mechanics. Like metal conducts investiture like it conducts electricity, maybe like something along those lines.
I don't think that the metal is important here. Not in the same way that it is to other parts of the Cosmere or other aspects of the Cosmere. I think it is just a matter of, well, maybe the first Artifabrians were experimenting and the first thing they had success with was like a metal wire, which is something I would imagine a scientist or an Artifabrian, which are scientists essentially,
we know
would
this
just
works.
experiment with. Right?
Let's keep using it.
Yeah. You also get a lot of versatility out of metal casings and metal wire. Like you're not going to be able to make as precise of casings with like wood or stone, but with metal you can do whatever you want.
But see, on Roshar, like they could just very easily. Well, I guess if you make it in metal, like yes, you could soulcast it, but why?
Yep.
You just have the metal thing. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Does the type of metal matter?
We have that as a pending question.
Yeah.
We don't know.
And yeah, I found it interesting in Words of Radiance when Navani's talking, or Jasnav's written to Navani about the broken Soulcaster for Shallan. And Navani says the failing likely has to do with the alignment of the gem housings. So like how the gem is, and this is dealing with old, like not necessarily modern Fabrials, but so what she sees as important to fix that Fabrial is how the gem is aligned in the metal, like holding, which is
so it seems as if like the
so like the structure is important, like it's not just the gem,
like the where the metals are being poked in the specific gem, like all that matters, you know, like it's kind of weird.
It is kind of like, it does remind me a little of Hemallurgy.
That's what I
like,
was just
that
thinking.
it's very like it's a very it's not a instinctive magical art like some of the others. It's
you have to poke it in the right places, like
And Fabrial science has had thousands of years to develop, and a lot of like the Fabrials that we're seeing now are recent developments.
Yeah, these are new Fabrials.
I don't know if I would say it's had thousands of years, because the ancient Fabrials, things like the regrowth Fabrial that Nail uses, things like Soulcasters, they seem to operate on a completely different way and to completely different effects than
I'm
modern
saying
ones.
Since like the Recreants, since the last Desolation, like like it has had thousands of years to develop.
Yes, I'm just not convinced that there was a lot of development happening during most of those years.
It does seem like a lot of Fabrial science is newer. Like in even Dalinar's flashbacks, you see them using like fires instead of heat reels, and then like that transition seems to have happened at least within like kind of living memory.
Right, just thinking about how many Fabrials are available right now. Like obviously we haven't seen all of Roshar. We haven't seen even most of Roshar, but the number of Fabrials that we have seen is extremely limited.
But we do have places like Tashikk that have adapted and, you know, have this span read hub, right? And a whole economy based around that. Some of them at least have been around long enough for countries to adapt and kind of build industry around Fabrial science.
Span reads are like the last 6 years.
Yeah.
They were invented during the War of Reckoning.
Yeah.
Oh, there was a mention of that, wasn't there?
So Tashikk is just on the cutting edge.
They're on the ball.
Let's monetize this.
I guess it is hard to remember because a lot of the things, the objects that we see in Roshar are very, very old, and like they've always been there. But like, no, that span read network, very new. This is cutting edge. Which leads us right now. Why don't we talk about all the types of modern Fabrials that we know?
So the Ars Arcanum of Way of Kings lays it out very well. Later Ars Arcanum have just copied it and not updated themselves because Brandon is lazy.
That legit
Well,
word of Brandon.
That
Well,
is
he
legit
forgot.
word of Brandon. He said it to me personally. That
Chris just hasn't had time to write a new article.
yeah. Yeah.
She's busy writing an Althus essay.
So
Good.
there's 4 categories. There's altering Fabrials that change something.
Okay.
There's pairing Fabrials, which link 2 gems together in different ways. There's warning Fabrials, which detect something. And then there's motion-inducing Fabrials that either push or attract.
And do we think these categories are like accurate or like more artificial based on Artifabrian's understanding of the science? You know,
I'll
like
take the
I'm
second
kind of
one.
curious if,
I think it's a little bit of both.
yeah,
Like there are underlying mechanics, but like
Mhm.
people are putting them in boxes.
Yeah, right,
and
exactly.
I kind of wonder if some of those distinctions are artificial. Like some of those categories might actually be doing the same or similar things in different ways, and like
Yeah, I mean, we'll kind of have to see, because like in 1,000 years, I'm sure they will have more categories than these.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
For
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Real, like
It-
absolutely.
it's just weird to me that something like warning seems very specific, and for it to have its own category, I kind of wonder, oh, like, did they just not know how to categorize alert or Fabrials?
Yeah.
And so they
Well,
gave it its
Well,
own.
it's at that point, it's like you have Fabrials that make something, Fabrials that lessen something, and then Fabrials that when you push one, another one moves. Like it's not like any of those. So
Yeah.
like it has to be its own category.
Unless you compare it to like heat reel, like they're both producing, like heat reel is producing heat and warning is producing a sound. Like it depends. Like they're
But it-
different,
it-
but
it
it
doesn't-
depends how you.
I don't think warning Fabrials don't produce sound. It's
No.
like they glow
Flash.
in response to something.
Gotcha.
So we see those in the Risen interlude from the Way
Right.
of Kings, where they
Oh,
set
yeah,
up a
yeah,
camp and they set up the Fabrial, and when the Shin approach, I think the
goes off.
Fabrial starts blinking or something.
Huh.
Yeah.
So it's a motion sensor.
They really haven't used alerters that much in the books.
No.
I mean, all of them are so new.
I guess so, yeah.
yeah.
And like a lot of
Mr. mentions that he spent a lot of money on that
Yeah.
because it
Yeah.
is brand new. But
And
like, the
I'm-
only other alerter we know of is the emotion bracelet from the other Way of Kings Nabani notebook page.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow, we have not
Which-
seen an emotion bracelet on screen, I don't think.
No.
Wow.
Also, speaking of the emotion bracelet, it's like some of its settings are awfully specific. Like
Yeah.
if you light up like 4, 5, and what is it, like 9 or 8? That's a man betrayed by a close friend. Oh, Dalinar.
And you-
fixes that.
and you have woman who has just been proposed to.
Yeah, we're looking
I
at
think you might have it backwards, that like they are like reading the emotions that are happening at that point. It's not like every time those 3 light up, like that's what's happening.
Gotcha.
that's
It's
It's
So
like
it-
those are the emotions being felt at that moment.
By the woman, yeah. But
Oh,
it's
yeah.
interesting. If you look at that page, the top left corner, I guess, when you're looking at it, the ones referencing men specifically have one, and the ones referencing women specifically have another. So I wonder if those 2 dots in the top left corner distinguish between male and female.
They are labeled at the bottom.
Yeah,
Oh, they are?
all of them are labeled
Yeah.
just as different emotions. So like
Huh.
they're 3 lights of 3 different emotions, and it's kind of like
Oh, yeah.
translating what that bracelet means to
Or
like,
So
what
Mother
God
at
else
Wedding
was
of
interesting.
Only Son is anticipation, sadness, and trust.
Very interesting.
So I should mention, listeners, that if you don't know what we are talking about,
Yes.
because this is a little bit obscure,
It is.
In the Way of Kings, there were some in-book art pieces or drawings that were written in the women's script.
Yep.
That some people on the 17th Shard figured out a way to translate into English. And so we have those pages on the Coppermind.
And we'll maybe put the link in the liner notes.
So if you, we can do that.
Yep.
Or if you want to get them, you can search for Navani's notebook, and you'll see all of them.
And there's something interesting about the emotion bracelet. It's not only just learning to read the bracelet, but also to see if the bracelet's reading your emotions, your subject's emotions, or the emotions of people in the next room over. So,
this reminds me, like, a lot of medical technology. You have to be careful with this, especially with pregnant women, like figuring out if you're reading the mums or the babies, like heartbeat and stuff. And that's what it kind of reminds me of. Like, it's so sensitive, it's reading a bunch of different things. And you have to filter into what you want
presumably this is extremely in a very new Fabrial, because we've never seen it on screen. Like, I think it's just been in this, right?
Yeah. And actually looking at this one, there's something else about Fabrials that we haven't mentioned.
Oh, yeah?
It's the stormlight patterns.
In the gems itself.
Yeah, patterns of stormlight filtered through the Fabrial determine the power of the gem. Fabrials allow creation of things like the emotion bracelets made of 10 Fabrials working together. The pattern cannot be seen by the naked eye.
What that's kind of reminding me of is kind of imagining like a prism of light, kind of like filtering, like the spread's kind of filtering how that goes, right? Like, that's kind of what that reminds me of.
Yeah. But it's interesting, if they can't see it with by the naked eye, like, what does it take to see it?
Yeah, like, do they have some special microscope type device?
Just some glass that would focus it. I don't know.
Or is it something that you can't observe with the naked eye, and they have to look for secondary clues to know what the pattern is?
I would if I were to get I don't think this is going to be a resolution type of thing. I don't think it's a microscope. I don't think you need to magnify to see. I would guess maybe they apply a filter of some sort, so that the pattern actually gets shaded or colored as it is formed. But that's obviously super speculation-y.
Yeah. Or maybe they could do a projection, like you put a gem in some sort of device thing and it projects on the wall, and then you can see the pattern that it's creating. I don't know. Very speculative.
So that is crazy. It almost feels like the emotion bracelet is so new that only Artifabrians in the know would know about the existence.
Are talking about it,
right?
Well, even the Pain Real in the Way of Kings, the one that Navani was showing Renarin, was a very new invention.
And that was It's interesting getting these translations, actually, because when I first read this book and looked at that, I was like, oh, is that a inaccurate drawing of a Soulcaster? Because
no, it's very bracelet. It's very specific.
Yeah, bracelet with gemstones. I was like, oh, that's not how I pictured a Soulcaster. But sometimes the art is kind of a suggestion more than a accurate depiction.
But it's all translated.
Maybe in non-Brandon books.
Yeah.
Non-Stormlight books. But I like looking at this other page that's also from Way of Kings about the Pain Knife, where it's just looking at the different metal encasings for the same stone.
Which welcome to foreshadowing 2 books ahead of.
Yeah, and that one also
those
says,
actually aren't the same stone.
Well, they could be a different cut. Well,
they're different cuts.
They're
They're different cuts in different settings.
Yeah, There must be thousands of possible combinations. Great.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, but for the pain knife, Navani, I wonder if that technology was developed to cause pain first, actually, and then she like inverted it and made it a diminisher instead of an augmenter.
I don't know about that.
I don't know.
Because, like,
Well, because
what do you,
this isn't the pain knife is not the same Fabrial as the pain wheel
yeah,
that reduces.
but
pain.
they're manipulating the same. Like, they're both manipulating pain, right? And so, like, I
Both.
could see the technology being like one building on the other.
It is also important to mention that both of them are referred to as pain reals. So that's
That's
more
true.
of a category than it is a specific
Yeah.
Fabrial.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm referring specifically to the pain wheel that Navani was showing off.
Yeah, but like the
that one
effect
reduces
is
pain.
like what the sharp blades piercing an attacker's clothing and causing crippling pain. Like that's very similar to what Navani is able to do in the Battle of Talon City with her pain real. Like it's a very similar effect.
It's pretty much that. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about we talk specifically about types? Because we talked about alerters, we talked about the emotion bracelet, we're talking about the pain reel, and that's under the category of altering Fabrials. And there's
Yeah.
augmenters and diminishers.
Yeah.
there.
So pain wheel, there would be a pain wheel that's an augmenter that makes pain, and then a pain wheel that is a diminisher that reduces pain.
And Navani seems to do both. Like she's able to flip a switch basically and switch the flow.
Well, I don't
Isn't that what she does?
I don't think so.
I
I think she has a diminisher that she gives to Dalinar, and that's in his
Yeah.
or his wristwatch, air quotes. And she also has the pain knife that she carries with her.
as like defense.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it says she's using the like pain reel and she like flips it.
Well, why
But
don't we
the-
find out quickly?
Yeah.
While they do research, there's
Yeah.
also like the one we see a lot are heat producing Fabrials.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very common.
And then
Heat reels.
heat wheels. And in the Battle of Narok, we see light producing Fabrials
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
that use diamonds.
Yep.
And they're specifically like Fabrials. They're not just huge gems with light
Yeah.
because
So
they make more light than just a large gem. They're like flood lamps.
if we can go back, I found the quote.
Great.
Mhm.
Let me do that. Okay, so this is chapter 118 of Oathbringer. Navani seized the arm of the man holding her, then pressed the knobs of her pain Fabrial against his skin. He screamed and dropped, writhing in agony. Then she does the same to another one, and then the last one managed to cut a gash in her arm before she sent him to the ground spasming. Bother. She flipped the switch on the pain reel, drawing away the agony of the cut. Then she took the knife and quickly cut Fenn's bonds. So
There you go.
Okay, so
her,
so
like, it's probably an advanced one. Like it's
Hmm.
like,
Okay.
a
sure.
fancy pain reel. But
She flipped the switch. So, do we think that flipping the switch moves or modifies the metal casing a little bit so
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it's now
Yeah.
producing the opposite effect?
That seems the most reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
oh, and it could even be using different gemstones. Like it might switch the flow of magic from one pattern of gems to another. Like
Yeah, like if you have because clearly the emotion bracelet out of 10 Fabrials all in a thing.
Yeah.
Like the pain reel could have a bunch of gemstones and
So,
just like switch
no-
the metal from
yeah,
like 4 gemstones to another 4 or something. I don't know.
Navani's pain reel could be several Fabrials in one as well. Like you call it a
Absolutely,
Fabrial, but it's actually just like you call a machine, but
Right, yeah, like
Yeah.
a simple machine.
But
yeah,
it's a
it-
composite.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
exactly.
and someone might bring this up, but like I think it's in the Navani's notebooks that, or it might be in the Ars Arcanum, but Fabrial, like Artifabrians, generally when they're talking about a Fabrial, they're talking about the gem, and then like the entire thing is a Fabrial machine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
normal people just call them Fabrials,
Right.
Because half-shards are also considered augmenter Fabrials.
Yep. Which we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
Yes.
And one other type that we haven't seen kind of on screen, but is mentioned in the Ars Arcanum, is and this is unnamed, but apparently augmenters are able to create wind. I'm looking for the exact quote here. Yeah, so there is in the Oathbringer Ars Arcanum, in the line that talks about the augmenters, Chris says that these are Fabrials that are crafted to enhance something. They can create heat, which we've seen and talked about, pain, which we've seen and talked about, or even a calm wind, for instance.
Oh, a calm wind.
We could probably make a stiff wind too.
With
Well, sure,
enough
okay,
effort.
that's a matter of
Yeah.
strength.
Yeah.
It is interesting that the augmenters specifically seem to work best, according to Chris, with forces, emotions, and sensations.
Well, I think that's very understandable because the vast majority of Spren are natural forces, emotions, sensations.
Oh yeah, I guess if you tie this back to the surges.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm saying
But I
Spren on Roshar are mostly like nature and like emotions. And to them, sensations are emotions.
And they're also forces. They are
Yeah.
like literally forces of nature.
Altering Fabrials can use any type of gem, or have been observed to use every type of polestone.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Like they are not
Have
restricted
they?
in the same way, unlike pairing Fabrials, to go into
yeah.
Eric's next point.
Yeah.
So what Chris says actually is that she has seen those crafted with many different kinds of gemstones. She guesses that all 10 can be
Okay.
used.
Well,
It's like if they can use multiples, there's no reason to think they
I
couldn't.
mean, would
We
there be any
do-
reason why there couldn't be pairing Fabrials of every gem type?
Well, there's two known types of pairing Fabrials. Conjoiners, which if you lift one up, the other one lifts up, and reversers, where if you lift one, the other goes down. And conjoiners are only made with rubies, and reversers are only made with amethysts.
Amethysts.
So if I were to guess, I would say that if there are more conjoiners, so these two are same
Or
same
pairing,
force,
you mean?
different. Different, more pairing. So these are same force, different direction, and same force, same direction. If there are more types, I would say that each pair would come with different gems. So, for example,
Yeah.
if you just spitballing, if you can have a Fabrial that enlarges something, and its pair would be diminishing the size of something, then maybe those would use different gems.
Or like whatever it could be. Like there could be more that are kind of paired, but that just do weird things that we don't know yet.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I imagine like any lack of gemstone use is just they haven't figured it out yet, really. Like
Yeah.
But it's like augment. This is just unique that these types of spread. These types have only been observed with like these specific gem
Yeah,
types.
that's true.
Unlike altering Fabrials, which
yeah.
what type you use affects what they do.
Yeah. And I think specific kinds of altering Fabrials would have like one required gemstone potentially. Like you would need a specific to do a specific effect with an altering Fabrial, you would need a specific gemstone.
A ruby for a heat trio, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, going back to the warning Fabrials, it's that they've been observed to use Heliodors, but there is not a known. It's like, do you just use Heliodorus because that's the only one that works, or is that just the only one they use? Chris is unsure.
Sure. And then we have motion-inducing Fabrials, the attractors and repellers, which were used most famously in the Battle of Narok.
Yes.
Yes.
Repellers have not appeared on screen yet,
Right.
but Brandon confirmed their existence.
Because the bow thing, they weren't repelling water; they were actually sucking water
Out of
in
the
a
air.
way
Out
from
of the air.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they were less of a shield and more of a lightning rod.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we also see one earlier in the book when Shallan goes to meet Mraize for the first time, that there's one that's attracting all of the smoke from a fire.
That's a cool bit of. I wonder if with repellers, if you could do something similar to Wax's steel bubble.
Probably.
I
Yeah.
would say absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. I would imagine that there would be
Yeah.
something with enough effort that could kind of replicate that.
I mean,
Right.
not even with enough effort. Like, I would imagine that's pretty. I mean, not trivial, but pretty
Well,
easy.
with like specifically repelling metal, like that's specific and different from what we've seen.
Right.
But yeah.
So the ones that we saw at the Battle of Narok, Navani talked about. Well, maybe there's a trickery here. We want to make sure we attract the water, but we don't want to attract the water in people's bodies.
Mhm.
So that's the trickery there.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I think it's just a matter of, well, let's try these Pren, let's try these gems, let's try these casings until we get the one that works on metal. And then it's done.
And it probably has to do with like the pull stone use, because essential theory plays a role in this. Like, there's a reason Fabrials like use rubies, because like rubies are spark fire, and
Yeah.
I believe that the water attracting Fabrials used garnets.
Which
So,
makes sense.
Hold me
Which
on
would
that.
make sense. That's
And
the
that
essence of blood.
The smoke Fabrial used smokestone.
Whoa. Shocking.
Although we also have ruby being used for span reads, which
Well,
makes less
yeah.
sense.
Those are like in another category, because those
Yeah.
aren't affecting like
Mhm.
an element.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine, given enough effort, there can be a Fabrial for whatever Brandon wants them to do. Like, literally anything.
And that
really.
is so exciting.
It is pretty exciting.
Yeah. And it's going to get even crazier when you start mixing technologies potentially from other planets. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, like multi-planet, like Fabrials that use Spren and gems and like metallic arts.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or like that plus Aeon Door, which we'll get into, I guess.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, there could be all sorts of things. But before we get there, we should probably talk about ancient Fabrials, which are very different from the, well,
mhm.
kind of different. Pretty different.
We think they're very different. So types of ancient Fabrials that we've seen include oathgates, regrowth Fabrials, Soulcasters are probably the most common one that we've seen a lot
They're
of.
the most famous, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if they're the most common necessarily, but they seem to be the most preserved, maybe just because of how valuable and useful they are. So
Yeah, there was there was a word of Brandon where somebody asked about why, given how shunned the Knights Radiant were in the past, why are Soulcasters, which essentially replicate one of their abilities, why are they so prevalent and still used and not viewed with the same kind of stigma? And the short answer was, well, they are just way too valuable.
Yeah.
And he also says in that one that they're the most commonly used Fabrial that accesses a surge, but they're not the only one. So,
Yeah.
which,
like,
you know,
obviously anything that makes food is very valuable, just like shard blades are very valuable. And
Yeah.
And he has said that there are Fabrials that replicate each of the surges.
Hmm.
Yeah. Which we haven't
Or
seen at all.
it's possible to create a Fabrial that does each of them.
Yeah.
Whether or not those actually exist in the current or any time period, we'll see.
Interestingly, he's also mentioned that it may be possible to create Fabrials that replicate the void bindings as well, not just the surge bindings.
Great.
Which doesn't tell us anything because we still don't understand how void binding works.
Yeah.
But it's something to look forward to in the future.
They can replicate any ability, basically.
Just like hemalurgy.
Yeah, well, yeah, pretty much.
Um,
So let's dig into Soulcasters, because Soulcasters are the one we see talking that we've seen the most, really. But yet we still know very little about. And we still know very little about soulcasting, really. Yasna has never been, Shallan, let me tell you how to soulcast. That's never happened thus far, really.
oh,
And-
Yasna.
And now we actually have more with Kaza's interlude and some of the other chapters. We actually have someone actually using a Fabrial Soulcaster.
Yeah, where
Whereas-
Yasna totally wasn't.
Yeah, and with Yasna's stuff, she was using the fake Soulcaster convincingly, like people thought it was one, but they're so shrouded in mystery and there's so much misinformation out there, we can't really even say, oh, they didn't notice it was a fake, so that must be how regular ones work, because they might not have known.
Yeah.
Right. What is
So-
interesting about her using, like, pretending to be using the Soulcaster
Yeah.
is that all the way back in the Way of Kings, when Shallan first meets her and Yasna soulcasts that block of rock, block of rock, okay. One of her gems cracks.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Because
that
she's
happens
using
also.
the
Weird.
Stormlight from it.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, but like Kaladin, for example, uses Stormlight all the time.
Yeah, his gems don't break.
Yeah. The only time we see gems breaking that I can recall is when Soulcasters are being used, and they talk about that.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
it also happens when she is soulcasting the bandits or whatever in the alley. When she does like the distance shot and soulcast them, her smokestone cracks.
Yeah. And we
And-
do see this with like Fabrials,
Yeah.
like putting like strain on the gems.
Right.
It makes them
Yeah.
more likely. Because Kaladin is often using many different gems. Like he's not it's not like he has like a sapphire he's always holding and always drawing Stormlight from.
But the thing is, like, if Jasmine is soul casting, like, say she's not wearing this fake soul caster,
Mhm.
shouldn't she like just breathe the stormlight in and then use it? Like,
And
it's
I don't
weird.
think it's
On-
necessary.
on that note, exactly, somebody once asked Brandon about Shallan's first impression of Yasna, where Shallan thinks how she almost sees Yasna glowing when she soulcasts that piece of rock.
Hmm.
And Brandon talked briefly about how maybe Shallan was actually seeing Yasna use her surge and breathe in the stormlight, or at least that's my impression of his words.
Yeah.
But she didn't yet know how to understand, how to process that.
yeah,
how
you
to
wouldn't really
interpret
know.
that. Here's the thing, though, right? So let's go back to that block scene, right, with the rock.
Yeah.
If Yasna is just using the surge of transformation as she would at any other time,
Sure.
she would, one, draw the stormlight from the gem, whether she breathes it in or it just kind of like goes through her skin or whatever, and then she would do the soul casting. That puts no strain on the gem.
Well, we don't know that. We can't say that.
But this is the only time we see it putting a strain on the gem, I guess.
Yeah.
That a surge.
What
binder does,
I was
right?
trying to say earlier is that Shallan is using those gems a lot. Like specifically
Yasna
those
is.
gems. It's not like Kaladin who's using a different gem every day.
But is Jasna actually using the Stormlight from those gems, or is she using it from her bag or something? Because the gems don't stop glowing. Like when they use gems, usually the light gets used up really fast.
Huh.
And like her gems, right? Like they're still glowing until they crack. So
Yeah,
Because she
I guess
hasn't
that's
used all of the Stormlight.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like
she
she
would
has to be
presumably
using the Stormlight from the gem, otherwise it wouldn't crack.
but it seems like she would suck up the light so quickly, right? With what she's doing. So I feel like she's using Stormlight from other places and not necessarily just from the 3 gemstones in her Soulcaster.
I disagree.
well, we do know that she carries additional gems.
Yeah, but for like the soul casting, like though we haven't discussed this yet actually, but like soul casting is weird in that it requires specific gems to do certain things. Like
Unless
you need
you're
a
a surge binder.
Yeah, for the Fabrial Soulcasters.
well, I'm not entirely convinced of that because
That's what it says
where?
in the Ars Arcana. Chris is like, yo, it's weird because if you use the Fabrial, you need specific gems, but the Fabrial mimics the Radiants, but the Radiants didn't need specific gems.
Because I'm pretty sure Brandon.
Well, Shalon, I remember talking about this with Shalon scene. Like, did Shalon have any garnets around her
Yes.
when she...
I think she did, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. When she soulcast the
blood.
goblet into blood.
Where else have we seen soul casting?
When she soulcast the ship, she would have also hypothetically needed a garnet if it was specific.
Because she turned it into water, right?
Yeah.
And garnet is non-oily
Liquids, yeah.
liquids.
And but
presumably she had all sorts of gems at that time, so who knows?
Yeah.
when Shalon was poisoned, Yasna is freaking out because like I need a garnet to soul cast her
That's true.
blood.
But
she does
I
say
was
that.
wondering, though, if that's just to keep up appearances.
But
Yeah.
so
I
few
think that-
people
is really painting Yasna in a very poor light. That
like
I think she would have been like, oh, bring me a garnet. And then if someone hadn't have brought one, she would have just done it and be like, oh, I had a garnet in my pocket. But I think I read that
like
as...
I read that as like her freaking out. It's like I
she
need
was
a garnet.
freaking out if you read that. Like she was I'm just
She was
saying
freaking out.
if
I
so
think she was
few
still...
people if so few people know about Soulcasters, then it doesn't even matter to keep up a ruse on people on
But people
things that
do
people
know-
don't know about.
People do
Like,
know about
She
the
could have just
gemstone.
said she had a garnet like in her bag if it wasn't
Yeah.
necessary. Like she
Yeah.
could have just done it and said like, oh, I have a garnet in my bag.
I think you guys are
That's true.
painting this more like because like this is from Shalon's point of view, who's passing out, and Jasna, her voice was distant. She's been poisoned. I need a garnet. Bring me a garnet. There's one in my pouch. Shalon thought. Like,
I just don't think she would ask for it because I don't think Yasna asks for things she doesn't need just because for subterfuge. I just
Well-
don't think that's really a thing she does often,
No,
really.
I disagree with you because we've seen Yasna be pretty paranoid about assassins, about spies,
guess.
about plots.
Well, yeah, but I don't know. I just don't. I think this is kind of a different scenario.
Like she
If
hires.
If she didn't need a garnet to save Shalon's life, why would she ask for it? Like, I don't know. That seems.
I
a bit
think
of a
to keep
stretch
up
to me.
appearances. Like, I
I
think
don't
But like
think
it's not
Jasna
even
is
necessary.
Jasna.
Like she could have just said, I have a she could have done it and just like if anybody asks, like, oh, I have a garnet in my bag.
Yeah, like it doesn't make any sense. I don't think.
Unless
This is super conspiracy land.
So back in that first rock scene, doesn't Shalon mention the kind of gems that Yasna has in her
Yes.
Soulcaster?
Yeah, and so she says the gemstone set into Yasna's Soulcaster were enormous, some of the largest that Shalon had ever seen, worth many spheres each. One was a smoke stone, a pure glassy black gemstone. The second was a diamond. The third was a ruby. All 3 were cut. Blah, blah, blah.
So no garnet.
Yeah, no garnet. And when we do see Yasna soul casting in Way of Kings, before we know that she is actually able to soul cast without a device, she always does smoke, crystal, and fire. Like those are until we get to the jam. Until we get to the jam, she only soulcasts things into smoke, crystal, and fire.
Because that Fabrial's like specifically attuned to those, but it can do anything.
Yeah, it can. Yeah, Shallan says it can do anything, but those are the three things that Jasna uses it for.
My impression of that is that it can do anything, but it needs, like, you need to replace the gems if you want to soulcast other things. And so what she was doing in the hospital, I would guess, is that she knew she had those gems, and so if she did soulcasting that would normally require a garnet, and somebody knew that she didn't have a garnet in her soulcaster, they would go, "What the hell? How are you doing this?"
But isn't it a garnet sphere that she has in her that Shallan has in her bag? Like, I don't think you can just slot a sphere in.
No, and that's why I think. Yeah, and that's the other thing is about this quote is how big, like the spheres in the Soulcaster are the largest Shallan had ever seen. And I'm like, how bulky is, like I'm picturing the Soulcaster, like you're wearing it on your hand. How big are these spheres?
Shallan's also, was
Rural.
pretty sheltered. So, like how,
so yeah, they're not like,
much of his perspective.
They're not like the emeralds from the King's Treasury or anything, obviously.
Yeah, right.
But like, Shallan's still like a noble. Like she's probably seen some like decent sized spheres. So how, like, these aren't like little marbles. These are like decently sized.
I have the quote from the Ars Arcanum. Curiously, these gemstones seem tied to the original abilities of the Soulcasters who were an Order of Knights Radiant, but they don't seem essential to the actual operation of the investiture when performed by a living Radiant. I do not know the connection here, though it implies something valuable. It's like reading that, like, essential. Do you need a garnet to do a thing? No. Would it be easier if you did? Probably.
Yeah, that's right. That's my thought. Like, and it's easier to do when you're doing one of the 10 essences. Like, having the pole stone associated with that essence makes it like no brainer.
Yeah, I think so.
It's like how you don't technically need metal to do allomancy, but it's really hard to do it without it.
That doesn't make sense to me though, because like no other no other surge binding, like most surge binding, you take the Stormlight and it's like uniform Stormlight. You don't have Ruby Stormlight and Sapphire Stormlight. Yeah.
This is specifically a word of Brandon I've been trying to find. That soul casting is weird because it has this restriction.
Yeah, soul casting's super weird and super complicated.
Yeah.
Way more complicated than lashings, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's no question about it. Like, yeah, it just functions differently.
I wonder, too, though, so if that's true and you do need, or it makes it easier to have the associated pole stone, I kind of wonder because, like, the way soul casting works, you're, like, convincing Spren to do things. And Jasna kind of talks about how different personality types
materials have
convincing and paying them
and paying them, yes. And you can kind of see how, like, if you're a very commanding person like Jasna, you might be better at transforming certain things than others based on your, so maybe like Jasna's natural talent for soul casting blood isn't as good as she is at doing fire. And so she'd be more likely to need a garnet.
Yeah. Especially when someone's life is on the line.
Right.
Because she's less good at it.
Yeah.
She would be trying to make it easier.
Shallan's blood, like, while it's still in her body. Like, screwing up is bad.
Yeah. But then the other thing.
Questionable decision.
The weird thing about soul casting, too, is when, and this is less relevant to Fabrials maybe, but I always get tripped up when she soul casts the jam or the like jam substitute that isn't actually. What stone is she using for? Because it's a composite material, right? It's not an essential material.
Emerald. Like,
because it's food.
Because it's plant matter.
Yeah, well, with food and I think flesh,
but oil and
So Soulcasters can create more complicated materials, but it becomes more difficult, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons people talk about Soulcast food and how bland it tastes. Well, it's
Yeah.
because that's the easiest to kind of mass produce.
But then if you're talking about these gemstone things with these composite materials,
Well, that's true.
do you need like multiple gemstones?
Yeah.
Like if
Sure.
something is like, if you're looking at like a cookie that has oil in it and grain in it, and you know what I'm saying? Like, do you need a Soulcaster that has an emerald and I forget what does oil?
Zircon.
Zircon, you know?
I don't know if you can do those things with a Fabrial Soulcaster.
Yeah.
But you can make food. I guess like maybe they're making flour and oil and then you're mixing it by
Yeah.
hand.
I think making a cookie is
Directly.
technically possible, but practically infeasible.
I have
it's much,
used
like,
all
simpler
these
to
40
use.
gemstones to create one chocolate chip cookie.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like
Which-
at that point, just make the ingredients and do it yourself.
Which is
How
maybe
many?
different when you're talking about a Radiant Soulcaster. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
But like even then, like yes, but I think they would be restricted. Like the jam, I think is difficult because it's a complex plant, but it's not that difficult. It wouldn't require multiple gems. Like
See,
it's just strawberries or whatever.
I agree with you to some extent, Ian, but I actually think, I disagree with some people. I don't think Yasna, even if she knew jam better, I don't think she could have recreated the jam perfectly. Like, I think she failed for more reasons than
Oh, totally. Because like
for
she's
just
not
not
good
knowing
at
how to.
organics. Like
Yeah,
she says,
I like-
I'm not good with organics.
yeah. And I think it's also that the jam was a little complicated for soul casting, personally.
I wouldn't
I
completely
disagree.
discount,
Like
but it's a factor. It's definitely
Yeah.
a factor.
it's on the complex end, but like it's
Yeah.
nowhere near as complex as it could get.
Like, someone who's good at organics maybe wouldn't have had trouble with it.
Mhm.
But if someone's bad at it, it's complicated enough that it's going to throw you off more than an essential material would.
How about-
Fortunately, Yasna's good at making things go boom.
Yeah.
How about we talk about the Soulcaster Fabrials in particular? Because those we see in Kaz's interlude, hers is specifically attuned to one essence.
Yeah. So the majority of them are attuned to a specific thing, and it's like 1 in 10 or something that can do everything.
So she mentioned something interesting, and I would need to get the exact quote for that if we want. But she mentions it being attuned to 1 instead of the usual 3 or something like that. And then she goes, but she
Yeah,
doesn't
I-
know why.
I thought there were some that were. It wasn't like a Mistborn thing of 1 in every. It was like there was like 3. I feel like Yasna's fake Soulcaster was the only one that we've heard of that is attuned to everything.
Yeah.
But like it's
Like-
mentioned as like that's a like they do exist. Like it's
Yeah, I
not,
guess.
because
Yeah.
otherwise people would be like, Yasna, why
Yeah,
is your
it's- yeah.
Soulcaster so powerful? Like
Yeah, right, exactly. Like,
it's not.
And I think Yasna then would have restricted herself to only soul
Absolutely,
casting 3
100%.
materials to keep up the facade. Kaza says she could not make the stone air again. Her soulcaster only had 1 mode, not the full 3. She did not know why. So 3, that quote seems to say that 3 is like the full or the typical.
Yeah, she
And
says
there's
there's
some
full
that-
3.
The full 3. So some are lesser, some are more, but
I
like,
guess some can do everything. Yeah.
I guess maybe
although Yasna's only seems to have 3 modes at a time. Like, it has 3.
Oh, okay.
Gem setting.
Oh, okay, yeah. So maybe like
Yeah.
a normal Fabrial, a normal Soulcaster Fabrial would have like those 3 gemstones, could do those 3 things, but maybe you could exchange the gems to get it to like go into a different mode or something.
Or
So
maybe
it's-
some, like, if they have the 3 settings, those are the settings. And then the really fancy ones that Jasna is pretending to have, you can switch out the gemstones. Like, maybe
Yeah,
that's kind of a
yes.
unique feature of certain Soulcasters.
Because if Navani thought that the casing mattered for the fake Soulcaster,
Yeah.
right, then,
Well,
like...
and it's also, like, partially Shallan's plan. Like, we know Shallan
sorry,
admitted
yeah.
later her plan was poor.
Right.
But Shallan is like, oh, we have a Soulcaster that makes metal. If I steal this Soulcaster, we can still make metal. And she's just kind of assuming that she'll be able to
Figure
make
it
that
out.
work.
Okay, so
Well,
actually
she's no
in-
Artifabrian.
I
Yeah.
have something in chapter 33 of the Way of Kings. Like, Shallan's thoughts like it seemed that this Soulcaster was attuned to 3 essences in particular:
Yeah.
Vapor, Spark, and Lucentia. But it should be able to create any of the 10 essences from Zephyr to Talus. That last one was the one that was important to Shallan.
So
Yeah.
she's saying it's attuned to those 3, but it can do anything else.
Huh.
Mhm.
Brandon really screwed us over when it comes to figuring out Soulcasters by making the first Soulcaster we see in depth.
Literally fake.
Yeah, like that
I mean,
just
do we? So do we even know whether it was fake to begin with? Like, it would
I
make
don't know.
sense that she uses a fake, like, because it's a lot
Yeah.
of trouble to be. Oh, I am a surge binder, and I'm gonna now pretend to have a functional Soulcaster. Let me actually go find an actual working, super rare
yeah.
Soulcaster.
And super
I wouldn't
controlled.
put it past Yasna to have.
But-
But I
gone
wouldn't
down.
put it past her, right?
But like one of the hints that we get that it is fake is no one knows how Yasna got it, right?
Yeah,
and they kind of
true.
attribute it to, oh, she's the king's sister, like, and she's
Yeah.
super clued in scholar, so she got it through like some contact. But like the fact that she has it is weird, and
Would-
that's kind of one of the clues.
I mean,
That-
if it's fake, then you don't... Literally, the placement of the metal casings don't really
Yeah.
matter. Like, you just have to, like, fit it together and have it look good enough
Yeah,
to a casual observer, right?
But
yeah.
If it's fake.
her mother is also Navani, so
Yeah. So
Although-
she would be in the know to make it look very convincing.
Navani
But, like,
doesn't
Navani
know where
would
Yasna
make
got
sense.
it though, right?
yeah.
Like Navani doesn't know either.
Yeah,
It doesn't
Navani
come
is
up.
also nosy and would be like,
Yeah, but Yasna's pretty, like, if she doesn't want something known to Navani's not going to know.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah,
it's
But-
probably a fake.
yeah.
it's probably
But then-
fake, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was real.
And maybe if it is real and she's like, maybe that's why the stone crack. I'm still thrown off by the
It's
stone
like-
cracking.
Yeah, that's
so
what I was
weird.
thinking too.
It's really weird.
I have zero issue with the stone cracking.
I mean, I
If that ends up
Honest-
being true, Ian, I wouldn't be mad about it, but it doesn't make sense to me yet. So Brandon will have to explain to me that is the case.
we really need to see on-screen soul casting, because like Shallan trying to soul cast, that was a long endeavor to get that ship to do what it wants. Whereas Yasna totally has no issue instantaneously turning someone into fire.
When Shallan is making illusions, like the Stormlight doesn't have to enter her to go to the illusion.
I guess that's true.
That is also true. I've been
Yeah.
trying to avoid thinking about that because I thought one of you would bring it up, and that's
Yeah.
counter
Yeah,
evidence.
so it's
to-
just like it's on her person. It's close enough, and like she has like some Stormlight in her to start the process, and then it's drawing from the stone.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So
yeah.
if he's
it was
drawing
soul
directly
casting.
from the stone, that might explain why it cracks. And
Yeah.
And maybe like she intentionally does it that way to keep up the facade, right? Because
oh,
yeah,
absolutely, yeah.
like stones cracking is something that people know happens with Fabrials, and so like
Yeah.
and I do think also with Yasna, it's not quite instantaneous. Like when she's fighting the goons in the alley, she does kind of take. It's pretty quick, but it does take a
It's
moment
pretty
to
quick.
focus.
Okay.
And-
yeah. Yeah.
It
but
happens.
it's
It happens
fast.
faster at the end of Oathbringer, though, because the realms are so close. Like she does say, she says she's able to do it more efficiently and easier because
the things she was doing there.
Yeah.
It's still very efficient, and I want to see in someone's viewpoint actually doing soul casting that efficiently. Like, I want to see that, because we totally haven't.
That actually blows my mind, by the way, the fact that she can soul cast people at all, and also like investiture, like you are messing up with somebody's innate investiture like it's not there at all.
You're convincing a complex person that they are fire.
Well, like, that's insane.
Yeah. Like not even convincing. This is you are changing somebody's presumably spirit web on the fly.
Well, yeah.
And
that's crazy strong.
Yeah, it is. And although, like, I do think it seems like investiture interferes with that, because in the fight, the regular soldiers she soul casts, but whenever she fights a fused, she does something like she turns the air around them to oil and lights it on fire.
Yeah, right.
Whereas regular soldiers, she just turns them into fire. So, like, there's a difference in how she attacks.
Yeah.
And I kind of wonder if it's the investiture interfering that the fused have.
Yeah.
Yeah, having more innate investiture or something.
Yeah. Or, like,
Francis,
it's just like full metal mind is harder to push. A heavily invested person is more difficult to soul cast.
Well, so
like
I keep going back to pushing on like metallically pushing or pulling on metal inside people, and that's super difficult.
Yeah,
and that's you are not trying to do anything to the person. You're just kind of trying to break through the interference bubble.
Yeah,
basically. Yeah.
And Yasna's like, what interference bubble?
I kind of wonder though if because you're really intentionally interacting it on the cognitive level, if that physical interference is lessened.
Yeah, it's like soul casting is, I would consider, a much more powerful magic than allomancy. It's like allomancy is fairly like low levels of investiture. Like soul casting, like there's a lot going on there.
And generally, allomancy is a very physical realm based magic as well. Like it's very physical.
Well, for the most part, but
yeah. I would say more so than most surge binding.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's like emotional metals do like go into this cognitive a fair amount.
I guess it is worth mentioning that Chris talks about how Roshar is one of the places where people just have access to stupid amounts of investiture regularly outside of places and events like the Well of Ascension.
Yeah.
So the Radiants have a ludicrous amount of power at their disposal.
Yeah.
It's a ridiculous.
There's a reason out of all the shard worlds that Vasher ends up on Roshar, because it's
easy.
Really easy.
Investiture just rains from the sky.
Actually,
literally. Yeah. Let's talk. Do we have anything more to talk about with like say the Kaza stuff and her Soulcaster?
Like she mentions a presence.
Yeah.
Like a spread almost that like haunts her.
Oh yeah, because
I've seen some people theorize that like, oh, that's the spread of her Soulcaster.
Of the Soulcaster.
Yeah, because we don't know for sure if there are spread inside the Soulcasters.
We don't know. It's Soulcasters are weird because in other Fabrials, the gem is very important because that's what holds the spread.
Right.
But in Soulcasters, gems seem to be easily replaceable.
Which would not be the case if you needed a spren in the gemstone every time.
So if Soulcasters work similarly to other Surge Fabrials or Ancient Fabrials, such as the Oathgates, for example, what we see with the Oathgates is that the spren are they kind of hang out in the same area in the cognitive realm as the Fabrial, but they're not like imprisoned in it or in
Well,
that way.
Do we know that, like, because I feel like they could be imprisoned in the physical, but then show up just kind of hovering beside it in the cognitive, right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe,
Like-
and oathgates are weird to begin with,
They're
just
unique,
because of
yeah.
how massive they are and how they operate and how complicated they are. But I'm saying, if there is a similarity there, where both Soulcasters and oathgates just have the spren kind of hang out, like it's on a leash essentially, it's not imprisoned.
Yeah.
So you can do maintenance on the Fabrial.
Yeah. go
Then
ahead.
it could be like that spren just being in the cognitive realm on the other side, guiding Kaza. And it would also imply that the spren is a lot more powerful than, let's say, a flame spren.
Yeah. It's like, since we met the Oathgate spread, I'm liking this theory more and more. That like,
Yeah.
and then it ties into like the idea of the sibling and Etheru, that like it's not trapped anywhere, but it needs to inhabit the Fabrial.
It's a almost symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always a safe bet on Roshar is there a spren involved? Yes. Right? Like that's usually a pretty safe bet, but we don't really know the mechanics of those old Fabrials, because of the direct surge things, it's the Soulcasters, it's regrowth, doing regrowth
Yeah.
very directly.
And we know nothing
Oathgates-
about the mechanics of the regrowth Fabrial.
No, nothing at all. And
Yeah.
like Oathgates may be doing transportation, but Brandon's been kind of coy about that too.
Well, I disagree that
Uh-huh.
it's the transportation of people from Ashen to Roshar that he's been cagey about.
Well, I
Like,
think
Oathgates
there
are
was-
transportation.
Yeah, so he was saying the exodus from Ashen to
Yeah.
Roshar, he's trying to make it work in another way, but he says, if I can't make it work that way, I'm gonna make it like the Oathgates.
Mhm.
Well, I guess there's just this one word of Brandon from 2015 that asked, are Oathgate Fabrials that mimic the transportation surge? You said that Fabrials can copy all 10, and Brandon said, that's a valid line of reasoning, but I'm not going to say yes or no. Like,
I think that's Brandon just like, I'm not
I
going
mean,
to
it was 2015, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
because
right.
you really hadn't seen
The Oathgates.
the Oathgates in action,
Yeah.
Yeah,
that he
And
just doesn't want to. But like,
yeah.
there's the surge of transportation.
Yeah, like they have to be, right? And the Oathgate Fabrials are very strange in that they require a Shardblade. Like that's very
And
specific
a
as
living
well.
one too.
And a
It's-
living one.
I don't think that's a technical requirement. It's something that was added to restrict their use because these are
Mm.
incredibly powerful things. We don't want everyone to be using them, so they added a lock to it.
Oh, okay.
I don't
Alright,
think
yeah,
that's
sure.
a like hard and fast requirement.
Like
I
the
can
lock
see
is a separate mechanism.
Yeah.
Almost.
I mean,
Almost
that
like a
they've
separate
attached.
Fabrial.
Yeah.
These are probably extremely complex.
Well, and like if you're thinking about Eurythru and how it
Yeah.
was a
How it is-
fortress, like making it so the Oathgates only work with someone who can summon a living Shardblade is a pretty good defense,
That,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
you would
protects
want
you
that.
from,
Yeah.
fused and people.
Hey,
Although
we're at your
the
fortress,
fused
what's up?
apparently are able to make the Oathgate work, right? Or did they use
No, they used Yezrian's other
right?
blade.
Oh, is that what? Was that what? How? It
Yeah.
was?
How did they get to Eurythru again? That
Oh,
was
or-
Malata
or was it-
opened for her.
Was it her face?
Malata.
The dumb one.
Malata.
Yeah, the dumb one.
That's what he just said. Yeah.
It's
Um,
Caravandrian's Radiant. opened
Yeah,
the door.
she must have led them
Yeah, yeah,
through.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, I hate her.
Caravandrian like explicitly says that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the ancient, we have no idea how these ancient Fabrials are made either. Like, no
Mhm.
clue how the Soulcasters are made, because, like, apparently you go to Akana to get Soulcasters, I guess.
They got
And
they got a
spread
box
have
there.
no issue with these ones. Like,
Yeah.
and part of that is because it's a much more symbiotic relationship, like we were
Mhm.
saying. Like the spread aren't captured; they are just there to facilitate. Like, and it's part of their nature. Like the Oathgate spread. Yes, I think they're stuck there, but if they weren't, I don't think they would leave because like this is my entire reason for being.
That's their purpose. Like they're they're created to do that kind of thing.
It's kind of like if we talk with flames, like if you're attracting them to a place they like, even if you're trapping them, is their existence, if they can perceive anything actually unpleasant?
Well, if we go to with Spren with like singer forms, like the Spren doesn't care. It's just like, oh, this is my life now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're not sure how much like sentience or sapience lesser Spren really
lesser
have at all,
Spren are like animals. Like
or I would say they might even be less than animals, maybe. Like some of them seem to be kind of animalistic, especially the ones we see in the Shadesmar, or like certain types, like I could see them being similar to insects in terms of like complexity and
I would consider insects animals.
So no, that's what I mean. Sorry.
Like non-sapient, like
a lesser animal though, not like a very intelligent animal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very base.
I could see there being some variation.
Yeah.
I would like to apologize to all of our mosquito listeners.
No, mosquitoes.
I want all of our
no
mosquitoes
apologies.
listeners to die because mosquitoes are annoying.
Yeah. So, anything more about ancient Fabrials and the modern Fabrials?
I guess the one thing is there's some question I've seen whether or not shard plate could be a Fabrial because it does require gemstones. It works very differently though from other Fabrials we see, but with ancient Fabrials in the mix, I don't know, something to.
I think we'll do a full episode on shard.
Yeah,
probably.
That's probably
Let's
fair.
table that for now.
Yeah.
One interesting thing that I've noticed between modern and ancient Fabrials is that the ancient ones seem to, while all of them utilize the surges, which makes sense because surges are fundamental forces on Roshar, right? You can't do anything without interacting with the fundamental forces. The ancient ones apply those surges in a manner much similar to how the surge binders and the radiants do. So the surge of transportation just transports you from here to there. Oathgates. The regrowth Fabrials just restore you, like if a surge binder used regrowth on you and so on. While modern Fabrials, they still use the surges, but they use them in much smaller and much more nuanced ways.
See, I kind of disagree that ancient Fabrials use the surges directly, but I'm very hesitant to say like, oh, modern Fabrials are using surges too. Like
I think they have to.
I don't think so. Like I think saying like, oh, everything on Roshar is related to the surges is perhaps technically true, but it's not a useful statement. That like these are so wildly different from what the surges can do that like I would like consider them different.
Well,
I would just say like a composition of surges could,
like it's
do like everything here is 4 forces, and I mean, yeah, sure, if you can tie it back there, then they're. Yeah,
and it's like
I think that's just
like,
a matter of philosophy.
You could tie it back to them like in some like philosophical way, but not necessarily like in a way that actually means anything. Like it's like,
right. I'm not using the relationship to the surges as a point here. I'm saying, yeah, they use them, whatever, but the way they like their effects are much less similar to what the Radiants do and Surge Binders do.
Yeah, like
in both quality and quantity.
Yeah, it's like it's less a magic system and more a science. Is the point I'm trying to make.
I think they'd have to be some manipulating the surges on some level, just in various combinations that can do different functions.
Okay, so let's put it a different way. Like modern Fabrials are like AVR, like whereas ancient Fabrials are like Elemancy. One's a formal magic system, and the other is just like investiture doing stuff.
Okay, let me back up and rephrase what I said.
Okay.
Ancient Fabrials replicate the abilities of Surge Binders, while modern Fabrials are kind of related to them, but not always in because the motion inducing one, attractors and repellers, that's very, very similar to lashings. And
in
I'm
the
not
same
saying
way that like pushing and pulling is related to lashings. Like,
okay, for the third time, this is not my point. What I'm trying to say is, yes, they use magical effects, but they don't replicate the surge bindings as closely as the ancient ones. That's my entire point.
I recognize that. I'm making a different point.
Go
Like,
record pedantic.
Surges are not important.
This
for, like,
is not
modern
pedantic
Fabrials. Like,
cast.
just ignore them. Like they
Okay,
do very
well,
specific
let's-
things. Like you don't have to think about the surges. They are not important.
Okay, well, we're talking about two different things, so
Yeah. Yes. Like I wasn't saying like
Okay,
anything
great.
was wrong. I'm just like making a point that like
Oh, because it definitely sounded
okay,
like that.
I objected to his uses of the surges, not to his point that like they do very specific things.
So, all right, we're going to talk about half-shards next time. Don't worry. There's plenty to talk about with half-shards. More than I think maybe you need discussed about half-shards. So, stay tuned for that. But it's time now for Who's That Cosmere Character?
Cosmere character.
All right. This first one is from Daniel Green.
Oh,
This one
hey.
has-
I recognize that name. He
And
makes
this-
YouTube videos.
I don't know if it's the same Daniel Green, but I don't know.
I don't
Maybe. But this one actually has 6 clues.
Oh,
Oh no.
Ooh.
maybe we'll need them.
Maybe. And clue number 1 is this character is highly invested. And it is capital I and not money. Why is it? It's a capital
Some-
I investiture, okay.
Some Goldman Sachs.
I usually guess first, so I'm gonna let the two of you go.
Yeah,
first.
yeah. Matt,
Oh,
why don't you-
how generous of you,
I'll guess for Shek.
No.
Kelsier.
No.
Leros.
No. This character is described as being mature despite their appearance. I'm so sad you guys are not on video because Evgeni's face is just the best. Yes? Yes, Ian?
Still.
No.
Okay.
She's not.
Well, she's invested, but I don't know.
No, I was
highly
gonna say
invested.
she's not mature.
Oh.
He has her moments.
Yeah.
That's why I was making a face because characters in the Cosmere are immature despite their appearance.
Yeah.
So somebody.
This one threw me off completely.
Mm,
Oh,
Suzebron.
no.
so it's someone who looks immature but is actually mature.
Right.
Who
Okay,
looks immature?
But let's see.
I'll say Vin.
No. And clue 3. This character once held influence over a sizable army.
Truth Call. I think it's
No.
the one that's like 14 years old.
It's not Truth Call.
Okay.
You're right. It might be.
Wait, that he
It
has
might
the
be
wrong
the
name for that
kid.
returned, or that returned
I-
is not the answer.
He's
can't.
It
not.
is not Truth Call.
That's all he's gonna say.
No.
Weather Love is the returned who he plays the game with. That's not. It's not
Is that
Weather
your
Love.
guess?
No,
Okay.
that's not my guess.
Uh-huh.
I don't think it's true. I just read this.
I don't think it's Mercy Star either.
No, Mercy Star is the curvaceous.
Don't help him. Don't help him.
It's not Mercy Star.
We don't know that. Like totally guess Mercy Star.
Although she does have an immature appearance, but she's not mature.
Do you have a guess?
Hope Finder.
Yes, it is Hope Finder. It is Hope Finder the Just, and the next clue is this character could also be referred to as the just. And the next clues were this character needed extra votes for the Council of Societal Ills. And clue 6, fairly obvious. This person is returned.
I hate returned.
I just couldn't remember the right return's name.
That was
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
See,
like,
for me,
and I remembered Hope Finder.
That's,
like,
that's true. You did get the description, but I feel
Truth Called It, I think, is one of the other male returned who Light Song is playing that Terragon game with.
I think Terrachin.
Yeah.
If you want to annoy Argent, please send your emails to whosthatcosmerecharacter@gmail.com and say, use this when Argent's on with a return. But before we do that, there's one more Who's That Cosmere character. And this one is from Claire. Thank you, Claire. And clue number 1 is this character is a researcher.
Roshu?
No.
Axes.
No.
Oh no, it's gonna be one of them, isn't it?
Vasher.
No. Clue 2. This character is a member of a secret society.
What?
Adroitagia.
No, but that's good. Good pronunciation too. I think, probably.
Close, but no.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like obviously we're being led towards Chris, so I'll go with that.
Yeah, I was gonna say Chris too.
No,
but
it's not Chris.
Argent said it first, so yes.
You're a power gaming.
Yeah.
What I meant to say, so I'm going to say
Chris.
that is not my answer.
No, you guessed Chris. You guessed Chris.
I know.
All right.
Obviously, it's likely a Rosharn character because that's where all the secret societies are. Wait, no.
Right.
There's some
What's
secret
his
societies on
name?
Cell.
I have a character in mind.
Okay.
I don't remember his name.
Okay. Yeah, I may be more forgiving this time if you give a description.
Is it the guy who is sick in Bands of Mourning that's a member of the set and they steal the primer cube from him?
Yes, it is, and that is Professor Iric of the set.
Okay.
Wow.
Look, that was pretty esoteric. I'll allow a description. That's fine.
I just realized another possible answer would have been Sazed.
Yeah,
I think.
the next clue is this character is male. Then clue 4, this character is an Allomancer. And then lastly, this character has a degenerative disease. Excellent one, Claire.
Yeah,
that
good
one
job.
was very vague. Congrats to Ian. That was well played. It was very well played.
I hope we do better next time.
Because I need to reread Bands of Mourning. So with that, send your Who's That Cosmere character to whosthatcosmerecharacter@gmail.com. Follow us on 17shard.com, Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud, and you can leave us a review on iTunes. We love that. And so we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Caw.